This is Alexa with Psychedelics today, and I'm really excited to be joined by Chase Hudson, founder of HempLucid. Happy to have you here, Chase.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, really excited to finally get the time to chat. And why don't you share a bit about yourself and about HempLucid?
Yeah. My name's Chase Hudson, founder of HempLucid. Originally grew up in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Um, I little I always wanted to be a fireman. So I've always had this knack for helping people. I was part of a junior firefighter program in Colorado Springs. Graduated, not graduated, left high school, um, came out to Utah, um, went through my came out to Utah, went through a fire science program, graduated with my bachelor's in emergency management and fire science, and just really followed my passion. Was a fireman for about 10 years, worked in Colorado, worked in New Mexico. I spent a majority of my time here in Utah, and then um, just realized that that wasn't my calling in life, and that industry was extremely political. And so I decided to, at the time I was in New Mexico, decided to come back to Utah, and that's where my journey with cannabis and hemp started.
Awesome. That's so interesting. I didn't know that about you.
Mhm.
What year did you kind of get involved in cannabis? Like, when did that journey start?
That started about 7, 8 years ago. So I was um, I was living with my one of my college roommates, and at the time he was working for eBay, and he was working with the top 1% of eBay clients. And so we had an eBay store, and we were selling like trinkets and small little goodies for smoke shops and head shops. And we ended up going to Champs, and there was a company there called Hemp PX that was selling CBD vapes and also oil. And we were like, how are you guys selling this? We thought it was illegal. And he's like, no, it comes from hemp, so it's legal. And that was when the Farm Bill passed. So that night we did a little bit of research and realized, like, oh my gosh, like this is a whole new industry that's starting. It's brand new. Um, and so from there, we sold there's about 3 companies that we sold for on eBay, Amazon, and Etsy. And we did that for a few months, and then the government stopped all selling of hemp CBD products on all third-party websites. So that really just kind of killed the business. And then I found a local guy here who was selling CBD. Went and worked for him for about a year for free, just kind of understanding the industry. That's where I really started to learn about extraction and the endocannabinoid system and the science. And I really just spent a year researching and educating myself. And then from there, we I separated from that guy, and then that's where really the start of HempLucid um, really was born. So Nate came on board, and then my current partner, she came on board, and then her sister, and the four of us, it's really just been running the company ever since.
Awesome. Yeah, before I got connected to you, I had heard about the brand. The name Hemp Lucid is a really cool branding, and it's really inviting on your website. And I had just heard about you guys, and um I'm curious, like, tell me more about the products and what you're doing, I guess, differently in the space, because I know there's a ton of CBD companies out there, and I know from the cannabis industry myself, the hemp market there's stigma there too, and there's a lot of like poor products on the market and a ton of misinformation. So I would love to just, give you a chance to kind of share more about what you guys are doing differently, and why people need to be more aware of like the differences in their hemp products.
Right. Yeah. So really, the foundation of our company is the genetics we use. So when we started, you can really extract CBD from industrial hemp. That's kind of how the industry started. So I looked for the right genetics, and I ended up finding a group in Colorado that took a medical marijuana genetic and back crossed it with a hemp genetic, and then over time bred out the THC so it was under that 0.3%. And so we have been using that lineage of genetics for the last 7 years. They come from clones, not seed. So we get very, very consistent product. Our products contain um, typically more cannabinoids and terpenes than just kind of your general products out on the market. As time has evolved, the genetics have definitely gotten better within our industry, but we still feel like we have some of the most potent genetics out there. Um, our flagship product, kind of what we're really known for, is our water soluble product. So we have this in-house process where we're able to take the actual CBD oil and make it water soluble. And so that product, it's one of our most popular products. It's very fast and effective. You can typically feel the effects of that within 5 to 10 minutes. So that product is absorbed out of the stomach like alcohol, instead of the GI tract like some of the other oils.
Is it an edible, or are they? Is it in all forms?
So the CBD oil that we use is in all of our products. The genetic that we use is in all of our products. But this is it's a tincture. So it's similar to like just a regular like CBD oil tincture bottle, but it's in glycerin, so it's a little bit thicker. And you just take a couple drops, put it in water, and it dissolves right away.
Wow. And so do you find most of your, the people who are finding your products? I know when you shared some with me and I was really surprised with the potency. I love hemp products. I love hemp flower. I've really grown to just enjoy, I love cannabis, but also more milder effects of hemp, and was really kind of blown away by how potent your products were in terms of like an actual high. Like, you really do feel the effects of the plant. And I'm curious, what kind of people are coming to you, or what kind of benefits are you seeing with people who are using your products? What are they using it for?
Yeah, so every pretty much everything. Kind of the big ones we see people use our products for, stress, anxiety, sleep. We do a lot with kids with seizures. I also do a lot of work with children with autism, and
Wow.
we've seen great results over the years. We've been in business 7 years, so we've been fortunate to just see the impact and the change that happens within people personally, but then also like within their family. And it's been the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
That's beautiful. That's really incredible to hear. And I find it's funny, with the war on drugs, it was like cannabis is, a gateway drug. And I believe that it is in like a very positive way, a
Mhm.
potentially gateway to like more deeper healing, spiritual psychedelics. And I would love to hear more about I guess how, where the two overlap in your world, because I know you're doing a lot of work in psychedelics, and it's like, how did that, work with cannabis kind of transition into your work with psychedelics?
Yeah, yeah, I actually couldn't agree with you more. The whole war on drugs, gateway drug, that just stigma and propaganda programming that we were all infected with. And it's funny because cannabis, in a way, is a gateway drug to these other plant medicines, and it's something that I've experienced in my own life, and I think we all have a very similar story when it comes to starting cannabis, starting this wellness journey, wanting to heal ourselves, wanting to heal our minds, wanting to heal our spirits. And then that eventually kind of dovetails and leads into these other psychedelic medicines that are becoming so prevalent in our culture today.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm curious, I mean, if you wanna share more about how psychedelics have impacted you or why, you know, what the work is that you're doing, to kinda bridge the gap between cannabis and psychedelics.
Yeah. So um, I, I personally believe cannabis is, a psychedelic in, high doses, especially on the edible side. When you ingest cannabis, it has a different effect on the body. And I've definitely been in spaces with edibles where it was almost as challenging and more difficult than, some of the other psychedelic therapies. Um, but something that we're doing um, here at HempLucid, it's pretty cool what we've been able to do. So we work with ketamine clinics. There's a handful of ketamine clinics that sell our products. I work with a doctor. His name's Ryan, and he has just kind of created a new protocol incorporating cannabis CBD into his ketamine clinic, and he's also pairing that with breath work. Um, he actually just gave a TED talk last month down in St. George on how cannabis is such a good complementary compound to ketamine, and it's kind of cool because a new I think there's a new like route that's being formed within the ketamine space. Typically ketamine is IV or IM or the lozenges, and it's just kind of a standalone treatment by itself. But with what Ryan's doing and other practitioners, we're starting to see that CBD and cannabis complements ketamine very well. And the first time I heard about kind of high dose CBD and ketamine was at actually at Meet Delic, where Aubrey Marcus talked about how he was utilizing CBD and ketamine lozenges to get into these different spaces where he was able to um, heal his physical body. His example was he was putting pressure on his jaw and his eyelids and his ears, and was able to start to release trauma that was stored in his jaw and just around his head. And I was like, man, that's actually pretty interesting. That's pretty revolutionary. I haven't really heard of anybody doing that. And then yeah, as time has gone on, just starting to run into different doctors who are really pushing the edge of incorporating cannabis in their ketamine protocols.
That's amazing, and I actually just started ketamine therapy, and I had my 2nd session yesterday, and man, it just blew my mind. Like, my mind is blown, but one of the things is I actually brought this up to my practitioner, um, and I mentioned, because I love cannabis. It's really grounding for me, and it opens me. It helps me be more in touch with my emotions, and, CBD, cannabis, like, it's medicine that I use pretty daily, if not, very, very often. But she actually said that I'm welcome to, for the next session. I didn't, consume cannabis, but she actually said there are people, doing this work, and to, bring a vape. That's what she recommended, like, to my next session. And I'm really excited to explore that, because what I found, and, I know everyone's experience is different, but my experience this week was like, there was so much energy that got moved, and it almost felt like I still 2 days later like feel like caffeinated. Like I'm really
Hmm.
like ready. I feel motivated. I like want to do. And I'm like, I think I
Yeah.
need a big dose of CBD. Like I feel like I'm a bit hyper and just wanting to get more grounded. So yeah, I'm gonna experiment with that myself. Just to see, if it can help me integrate a bit more, just because it's like slight anxiety that I'm just like so excited about how incredible, this journey was and all of the revelations that came from it. And yeah, I just really resonate with that, imagining how that experience could help. So that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. That's what's so exciting about this space. The psychedelic space, the cannabis space. It's all fairly new, and the research starts to free up a little bit more. I mean, that's probably one of the most exciting components of it. Is what are the protocols going to be? How are these medicines interacting with each other? So it's exciting. It's definitely this new frontier that we're all a part of.
Yeah. I would also love to hear about the project you worked on, the documentary, and what you learned, and how that has kind of impacted your work with HempLucid.
Yeah, so we did it's about 3 years ago now. I was approached by a friend down in Florida who was like, "Hey, there's this opportunity to get involved with a celebrity who is looking at psychedelic therapies and treatments." And I was like, "Oh, all right, cool, yeah. Let me fly down and see what's going on." So flew down and ended up meeting Lamar Odom, who at the time was in a really really tough spot. He's just coming off the whole Kardashian saga. Overdosing in a brothel. Almost died. Had 12 heart attacks, and I think it was 10 strokes. Um, and he was looking. He hit rock bottom, and he was looking for, really just looking for help. And so myself and just kind of a team of entrepreneurs and people in the medical space got together and created this protocol for him, which was, he went through a regimen of ketamine treatments, high dose CBD, and then we also took him down to Mexico for a ibogaine treatment. And that's really when I started to understand like the true power and potential of ketamine. Um, Watching Lamar go through several treatments and talk about his experiences, the things that he encountered, the trauma that he was able to heal from, was just it was mind blowing to me. Um, and then also seeing the power of Iboga. So we went down to Mexico and did a treatment down there. I actually participated in that. So it was me, him, and one other gentleman. And just my own personal experience, I think Iboga is probably, it's starting to be talked about a little bit more now, but the power of that medicine can, I mean, really fundamentally change people and people's trauma. And seeing Lamar's experience was just absolutely incredible. I would say that his big takeaway from that was he was able to heal from. Um, he lost a son I think his son was 4 or 5 months old. So he had a son that died of SIDS, and he was holding on to that, obviously big trauma, but was able to have this vision where his son came and spoke to him, and he got to see him grow, and his son communicated with him, and it was such a special moment that was all captured in the film. And yeah, Lamar now, he's in such a good spot. Since that treatment, he hasn't touched any hard drugs. The only medicine he works with is cannabis, and it inspired him to start his own treatment centers. And so he recently opened up three treatment centers in LA, and they're already doing very well. And he's looking to expand his business.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing. I have a couple questions. That's really amazing. One, I'm curious when you say high dose CBD, what kind of dose are you talking about, like milligrams wise?
So so during that time we were doing like 400 to 500 milligrams of CBD every day. So
Wow.
we were going through a lot of CBD, but um, he it was working really really good for him, and for him it was really calming the mind. That's something that CBD's been really good at. It's some of the rehab clinics that we work with. CBD is able to like pull the mind out of these loops and out of these loops before they start to spiral downward. And so it's able to break that, and people are able to get relief from just like the spinning thoughts in their mind.
I know. Yeah, I find that for me, it's definitely my go-to if my mind is racing before bed. It's like, oh, just take some CBD. And many times I'm like, why have I been rolling around here for 3 hours? Like, why didn't I take this sooner? Because I fall asleep right away.
Right.
But yeah, another question that I'm curious about, because you said you also had the Iboga journey as
Mhm.
well. Just because I'm not familiar, how would you compare the like psychedelic experience to ketamine, let's say, or to another psychedelic? Like, what is that experience like physically and mentally?
Yeah. So it was to date, it's been the most challenging psychedelic medicine I've worked with. I've worked with ketamine, ayahuasca. I try to do a month diet every year down in Peru. I've done that the last 4 years, but nothing compares to my Iboga experience. And the the intelligence within that medicine is it's it's unbelievable. I mean, to this day, still talking about it and like thinking back to my experience, um, it was very interactive. So it was probably one of my couple powerful moments from that journey. Um, One, I was talking to this super intelligence, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is this is like unbelievable. Like I'm having this epic conversation with some sort of intelligence, and it was telling me, it's like, your body is sick and your mind is sick. It's full of a bunch of trash, essentially. And what it was referring to was technology and the internet and social media. And it told me, it's like, your species is not ready for this type of technology yet. And it's like your brain is filled with a third of just trash. And it showed me all of my social media accounts, like when I created it to up until that moment. So I went through like my MySpace, Facebook, Instagram, and it was telling me, it's like everything you see electronically is being stored in your brain. And so it was like, do you want us to free up that space? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. And this intelligence then turned into this blob of trillions of like little nano robots that went in and actually scrubbed and cleaned my brain.
Whoa.
Um, and I had the worst head pain for about 2 months after that. um, and then another really intense part was, it was like, these are the people you've inflicted trauma on. Now you're going to experience what they felt when you were inflicting that trauma. So I was like going into other people's bodies, reliving these experiences, like seeing myself as them. Um, so that was pretty epic. And then it really took away a lot of my nerve pain. from my firefighter days. I have a lot of like lower body trauma and neurological issues, and it fixed all of it.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. That's yeah, it's something it's hard to explain these experiences in words. It's like these visions that we get and these insights, and something that really stood out to me when you also mentioned, that the spiritual aspect, like connection to something else, something other, and that Lamar had that experience with a child. um, I actually 2 days ago had, like, an experience with a spirit coming to visit me of, my best friend who had passed away, and I was very much like, "Wait, what are you doing here?" Like, that was, like, my
Wow.
reaction. I wasn't like and and then, there was a part of me that's like, "Wait, are you really here? Is this my mind?" And then she was like, "I'm fucking here." Like, like, I hung out with her for a little. It was a really I had just never heard that in ketamine specifically, the it's like, yes, there's spiritual work, but the actual, like, spirits, for me, it was very real and very healing, and she actually gave me a message to, like, go do something, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this thing," and, it didn't feel like something that was from within me, that some of the stuff that came up definitely did, and some of it didn't, so it's really interesting, like, when you can be in these like, you're in your body and you're also somewhere else. It's just profound. It literally blows the mind because we're just so far from what we know. It was really
Absolutely.
powerful. So
So
yeah, it's really, it's like the research isn't there, but to hear stories that are similar in many ways and like the healing, something that actually came up in my session around that was like, I wonder if there are like spiritual healers or mediums like doing work with individuals like during psychedelic experiences. Cause I don't know, that's something that came up and I was like, wow, that would be really fascinating to actually have an intention like to communicate with someone and use that altered state to whether it's, healing or for whatever reason, something you need to get off your chest, just like having that intention and potentially like somebody to be like a conduit. Thought that
right,
was interesting. It
yeah,
kind of goes into like what protocols could exist. Like who knows, like there are
right.
people doing it all and we're just getting started.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is definitely level one of where this is going to go, and we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. So it's like when you get into these spaces with these medicines, the veil disappears, and um, yeah, it's too many people have very similar experiences to discredit that spiritual aspect of these medicines and what they open you up to.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely gonna check out the film. I can't wait. What's it called?
Lamar Odom Reborn.
Okay, amazing. So we'll definitely check that out. Where can it be streamed?
It'll be on YouTube.
Okay, awesome. But yeah, I wanted to talk to you about, you mentioned your company ethos and, obviously mental health is important for your employees. I'm curious, like, how big is your team and how are you, supporting them and their mental health in, the tough human times we're in?
Yeah, yeah. So our we incorporate ketamine-assisted psychotherapy into our company culture. That all started when I got introduced to Lamar. At the time, I didn't even know ketamine was available and legal. I did a quick Google search of ketamine centers here in Utah, and a handful popped up, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this was available to us. And at that time, I had two employees who I went to college with. They're still work with me today. They're some of my best friends. Were really struggling, suicidal ideations and just some other issues. And I called up one of the ketamine clinics, and I'm like, hey, I have these friends. I'd like to come in and get them treated. And it was actually the next day. I took both of them up, got treated, and they both were just like oh my gosh, like I couldn't even believe I wanted to actually harm myself. And so, I not only with Lamar, but then I started to see it with, my friends and employees, and I'm like, okay, this is incredible. Um, so then I had this idea of, okay, well, how do I incorporate these psychedelic therapies into the business setting? Because the future is that of a psychedelic world, and we're starting to see that. Everything that you guys are doing, everything that I'm doing, the industry, it's the foundation for the new world that is currently taking shape. And so I'm like, okay, well, how do I incorporate ketamine assisted psychotherapy into business? Because I worked in corporate America for many years. The what they offer for mental health is virtually non-existent, and so it's like, okay, well, maybe I can see if I can kind of be a leader in this space and see, how I can incorporate this. And so over the last 4 or 5 years, it's really started to like take shape. Um, I currently work with Numinous, and we have a collaboration where I offer my employees quarterly ketamine treatments. It's up to them if they want to take it or not. It's not pressured. Um, and we also do group leadership therapy as well. And so the folks at Numinous are absolutely fantastic. Peyton, CEO, is just an incredible person. Dr. Reed, who is just one of my all-time favorite human beings on earth. Um, they're doing incredible research. The clinical trials they have going on are just epic, and really going to change the landscape. But yeah, we've incorporated that, and it's really changed our company culture and just kind of the way we operate.
Yeah, I would imagine it, in individual healing would bring people together too, like
Mhm.
relating experiences and just like healing collectively. So that's really amazing that you're doing that. I hope that more companies start to see the value, even just in that what it will offer to its people, the people who are working there, like in wanting to just put more effort in because they're feeling like more whole, or like when we're working
Absolutely.
on our own stuff, it's like, and especially when we're supported by our teams, like it's really important, because when we're not, it's really easy to not want to do the work,
Right.
and so yeah, that's incredible. I love that. I was really excited when you told me. I was like, huh, that's what more companies need to be doing, and it's starting, I think it is, which is really exciting. And
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was also curious, like, about Utah and like what's that, that like there. Like you said, you're like, oh, there's ketamine here. That, it's interesting because ketamine's legal, so it's starting to pop up. Has that been, like, been around for a while? Is that just starting to pick up steam?
Yeah, it's been around. It's been around a while, and I would say ketamine clinics have been here probably 8 to 10 years. Um, it's actually been cool to watch the progression of when I originally met Dr. Reed. Their clinics. They had two clinics. They were called Cedar Psychiatry, and then they started to grow and expand, open up more clinics here in Utah. Ended up being purchased by Novamind, and then Novamind got purchased by Numinous. So as far as Utah goes, there is this excitement around psychedelics and psychedelic medicine and therapies. Um, Utah is a big, um, you know, a large religious state. It kind of has the stigma of like, oh, you're going to Utah, you get multiple wives, or be careful of the Mormons, or and it's funny because that stigma still exists. When I travel, I'm from Utah, and people are like, just really just give me a lot of crap, which is kind of funny. But it's really cool to see what's happening with the culture here. There's a big pendulum swinging from kind of away from um, the religious ideology here, and people are turning towards psychedelics for healing. Um, I heard on a recent podcast this guy was talking about, and I don't know if this is factual or not, but he said per capita, Utah consumes the highest amount of MDMA, which I would probably agree with. So it's cool to see because people are breaking out of this shell and this box that they have been confined to their entire life. Because the religion is very integrated into virtually every aspect of your life. You've got church on Saturday, you've got a thing on Monday, you got a thing on Tuesday, they do something on Friday. So it's fun to see the awakening happening here in Utah, and the excitement around people wanting to heal utilizing these psychedelic medicines.
Do you know, is there like pushback from the like formal, church or community, or is it kind of being more integrated, or people leaving the church? Do you have it? Like, I don't know. Do you know?
Yeah, yeah. People are leaving the church in just like droves right now.
Wow.
It's yeah, it's pretty wild to see. Um, People are. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Your question, like
That's okay.
integrating.
Yeah, I'm just curious if people are taking it, upon themselves to be like, I don't agree with this and I'm leaving, or if it's becoming like accepted with or not at all. I mean, it's still very like taboo within the church, and so people are just like, F that.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely becoming more accepted, even within the state legislature. So we had a bill that almost passed, but the state was going to set up a task force to monitor the use and application of psilocybin. It almost passed, but it got kind of killed at the last minute. So there, there's really no kind of hiding the benefits of these medicines anymore, and that's something that's really cool to see here. Um, the observational reality of seeing other people who have left the church, who have healed using these medicines, it's undeniable. And so I think we're at a point in history and in this reality where people want to heal, and the drug war has failed. These lies that we've been told our entire life, and these laws that have been created, it's like people are starting to just plow through that and use these medicines to heal. Like, I want to heal, so what's available for me to heal? These are the medicines. Okay, well, I'm gonna take advantage of them and start to do the work.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And I think the more that, I'd be curious. I don't know if you know anyone personally, like from the Mormon community who has left or has insights to share, like to get firsthand perspectives of that shift. Like would love to talk to them, and really hear, because I think it's really important to just have all of the diverse voices, being heard, because people are finding these medicines from like everywhere. It's not because because they're mainstream. Now I think that's piquing curiosity. Like the average person is willing to maybe listen to someone, or it's helping with the stigma, but the people who are doing the work and willing to do underground work and work with facilitators, it's like the medicine has found them, or they hit a point where they were like, I have been neglected by our government and our healthcare system, and like, this isn't fair. And for me, I've been independent consultant entrepreneur for like 5 years, and I was actually in a very serious car accident in 2014, and cannabis completely saved me. I mean, Eastern and Western medicine like saved my life, but it was both. And
Hmm.
more like emotionally, cannabis specifically, like a friend brought me an edible in a hospital, and I felt relief for the first time, and my my blood pressure dropped, and everyone ran in and was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I ate some weed." I'm just gonna like, and I'm really lucky because I mean, it was in California, and like they were just like, "Okay, like we don't want to know," but that was their answer. Like, we don't want to know. Just do what you have to do. We can't know about it. And I'm like, wow, how messed up is that? And
Right.
still to this day, I mean, I have trauma around getting IVs and like being in certain medical situations that I always take CBD. Like that is, some people take Xanax. I take CBD when I know I'm going to be anxious, and it really helps, mitigate that. And recently, like my blood pressure was low at a doctor's appointment, and I was like, oh, I had some, I had a little bit of weed. Like that, I know that that happens to me. Like it slows me down. And they were kind of just like, oh, like not really sure, what to do with that. And so I think I feel like I'm very privileged that I feel confident that I can say that and inform my doctors, and they can decide how to react, but I'm not worried for my safety or, and
Right.
that's why I do it, because I think it's so important for us to speak up and out. But yeah, I forget where I was going to. Just the medicines, I guess like they find us when we need them. And I remember now, um, being a consultant and it coming from a serious accident where like health insurance at the time I was employed by a tech company, and health insurance covered, I had $500,000 in medical bills. I was
Wow.
in the hospital for 6 weeks. And I owed, I think, 15K out of pocket, throughout all that
Right.
experience. And, if I didn't have health insurance, what would I have done? Declared bankruptcy, or, I see people on the street and I'm like, it's
Right.
not a surprise how they got there. In multiple, it's mental health or like injury, and like
For sure.
broken healthcare system is like behind both of those, reasonings. And because of that, though, like, unfortunately, I realized the value of having health insurance, and I pay $700 a month in health insurance, and I don't go typically to a normal doctor.
Right.
I don't really take pharmaceutical medications. It's I'm able to do that, and it's what I prioritize, but it's really scary because I know that most people can't. And I just hope that with this, like, the psychedelic renaissance, we can figure out how to balance it out, like how to have our insurance cover these treatments. I mean, really, and more massage therapy and
Right.
even just psychotherapy to start, like normalizing therapy and making therapy accessible without psychedelics. And yeah, I don't know how we get there. For me, it's like education and just and sharing and talking, and hopefully people start to realize we just need to take care of each other,
Right. Right. Yeah, there are some groups out there that are doing really good work, getting um, insurance to cover these treatments. Because CAP it isn't covered. I pay out of pocket. I pay cash, thousands of dollars a year for my employees. Um, there is a company called Tara Mind. They're doing really, really good work, headed up by, I believe his name's Chris, old Navy, I think he was a Navy SEAL veteran, but his company, they're really kind of forging the path. And I'm pretty certain that they're going to get these some of these insurance companies to start covering these treatments. So it is starting to happen, slowly but surely, and it's exciting to watch because we all know that these treatments are life saving and add value to our life, and to see insurance companies starting to get behind that is exciting because once insurance companies start to cover it, then oh man, this thing is going to move. It I think access is going to move. a rapid pace.
Yeah, I think, what concerns me a little is like, yes, we need insurance to be on board, but it's interesting because it's it still encourages people to potentially go down the corporate path because that's where you get the cushy benefits and the security, and just the best healthcare, because those are the companies who are going to probably have the cheapest and best access. But it's interesting also on the flip side to think about employees at tech companies and finance companies starting to do this work. Like, are they going to want to stay at their jobs? Like, I really wonder if no, but seriously, like, I
Totally.
talked to someone recently who literally was like, I decided to leave my job. I decided to leave my husband. Like, you really have true awakenings. The shit that's eating you inside, like, it just comes out and talks to you. And it's like
Yep.
really hard to ignore when you're
Yep.
looking at it in the face. So I wonder, like, at what rate that starts to happen if companies, they don't know that that's could potentially be a side effect of this. But obviously, it's needs to happen. Like,
Right.
that's what needs to happen to change, to really make change in, like, in our system. But then it's also like, for people who aren't, working or in a corporate America and, are just hustling to get by, like, will there be programs for them? And I do know, like, Thank You Life is an organization. I'm not sure if you're familiar with. They're, a nonprofit that's trying to bring ketamine treatment, to people of color and, indigenous communities. And so like you said, like, there are companies that are starting to do the work on both sides. And that's really what we need. I mean, we need
Right.
everyone to do work everywhere. And because hopefully we can, like, divest some of the money from the insurance side of things and get it to people who really need it. And yeah, I mean, it's exciting to be a part of it. It's still so early, and it can feel scary. It's like, because for me, I feel like there's a lot of pressure on psychedelics. It's like, we can heal the world, but what if it doesn't
Right.
work? Like, what if we can't do it right? But when I was in my treatment this week, like, I was like, "Nah, like, this is so powerful, this shit. Like, this is why we're doing it. This is actually, like, world changing." And even the plants, what they can do on an ecological level, like, we don't even really talk about. We're just talking about through human work,
Right.
like, what they can do. But I mean, there's organizations working with mushrooms on actual, like, forest fire cleanups and,
Mhm.
remediation. And
Yeah.
so there's so much, which is really
Yeah. And
exciting.
plastics. I was just looking at an
Mhm.
article. There's a fungus that eats plastic in like 114 days, I think they were saying. So there's this whole frontier that is going to open up here. I mean, it's opening now, but it's going to be accelerated as this old guard starts to collapse. I mean, we're living in a time where Babylon is really falling. These pillars of what reality has been structured on are failing because it's been built on a bed of lies. Like, see, our government, our financial system, our healthcare system, our media. Um, so these, like, structures of the matrix essentially are failing, and as it fails, there has to be something to kind of transition people into the new world. And that new world is everything that we've discussed and are doing. And um, it's exciting to see, but it's Terrence McKenna says, we're in the birth canal for sure. And there's going to be blood, it's going to be hard, but we'll make it out, and humanity will turn into something beautiful on the other side of this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really incredible, um, just the potential that, we can't see. And that's what I think is so amazing that psychedelics show us, is like, we are limited by just the human experience that, that we've been conditioned in is limiting. And then when we can kind of break the barriers and, like, I really had a visual of, like, oh, my mind was a box, and then, like, the box disappeared, and it's
Right.
like, "Whoa." Like, and it's interesting because I came out of that session, I was like, I need to get my husband in here like immediately because we are just on different levels right now. Like I'm like,
Right.
we can do anything we want, like this world is ours. We are and I want all my family members, like everyone I love who is struggling, who has gone through trauma, like deserves to just realize that, we're part of something bigger. Like we
Right.
really truly are. And
Totally.
I think the truth coming out about the drug war, like, is such a crazy realization, for our time to realize like decades and decades of just complete propaganda and lies. And it's, the effects of it are clearly still alive and people are
Oh
still
yeah.
fighting for the drug war, that it's like real and true. And, but realizing that what it actually was, it was continuing like, segregation and race. Like it really comes from such a deep rooted, ugly truth about our country that
Right.
nobody wants to acknowledge. And when you realize just how tied in like psychedelics are to that conversation, it's very fascinating. Like it really, just the suppression of these
Oh yeah.
plants is a suppression of people. Like that is what
For sure.
it is. And so I hope that with the like, expression, if you will, like of the plants, that like, we give space for people who've, been really doing this work for forever. And it's interesting, like, and I think a bit controversial, how ketamine kind of weaves into that conversation, because I think there's stigmas from the other side of like, well, it's not natural. And
Right.
um after going through the experience, and I'm in a very like experimental, like self, discovery phase in my own healing journey, I realized like there's something for everyone. And I think
Right.
ketamine, it is accessible right now.
Right.
And it's also like you can go in and be out in like 2 hours. It's like they can give you a med to help with nausea and help with hangover. It's like, not is
Right.
that good? Is that bad? It's like, a mushroom journey. You could be really sick and then you're really
Totally.
sick for a couple days. And it's like, I just think they all have their different purpose, and it's all about just really being ready to do the work,
Right.
and not doing what other people tell you. It's like, what are you feeling called to? What is finding you? And people ask, I'm sure you as well, like people in your life and strangers like reaching out, like, I'm struggling, what do I do? And my advice, especially with cannabis, like I think cannabis is such an amazing starting point
Yep.
for this work. It's like, learn yourself,
Right.
learn what a couple of milligrams feels like. And like, it's not like a doctor's just going to tell you what to do. And I don't want our model to get to that. It's like,
Right.
learn and explore and then discover, what makes sense. And sometimes if it's not going to be pleasant, but that doesn't mean it's not potent and powerful and like super beneficial.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree. There's a little bit of back and forth with the plant medicine community, ketamine, it's a pharmaceutical. But, the reality is we're all waking up. We're all waking up to our traumas. And we need any tool available to have access to be able to start to heal. And, I originally I was against ketamine just for that exact reason. And then, saw other people, the observational reality of what other people were experiencing, and was like, okay, maybe, let me give this a shot. And, my 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 first few treatments were, just like yours. You're just, here's your mind, and it's just all the walls are blown off. And so it's, and yeah, like you're saying, the drug war. I mean, I played a drug in our DARE program, and so the propaganda is just, it's so deep within people. I mean, even still, we do events and we do trade shows, and we to this day still have people coming up and like, oh, this is legal. It's like, okay, we're still here. All right. So that propaganda is just going to be, it's going to take generations to filter out.
Yeah. Well, I think what's also really important is like to have these conversations about the, pharma meeting plant medicine. Like I was saying earlier, East meets West. Like when I was in the hospital, I was on morphine and I got all sorts of, I had internal bleeding and I was a mess, and without, an IV drip of antibiotics, and like I would have died,
Right.
honestly. Like it was very scary. And I had also, I've been living a plant-based diet for over a decade, and I feel like and not using pharmaceuticals regularly. So I feel like in that trauma setting, like what, like the Western pharmaceuticals, my body was like, they were superheroes. My body wasn't
Right.
like used to them. And so they really worked. And, and I had a girlfriend who came, and we did like meditation and visualization of like, my blood cells healing, or, growing, or whatever I needed them to do at the time. I was a bit out
Yeah.
of it. But I literally had like a healing experience like overnight, that they were like, what happened? And I was like, I visualized, like, I don't know,
Right.
like I believe that it really is the combination. And
Yep.
this practitioner I'm working with, her name is Dr. Sarah Herman, out of Soft Reboot Wellness in Menlo Park, Bay Area. She's doing my ketamine therapy, and I've been so really inspired. And because not that she ties in like Eastern, she has her own way. I mean, there's a lot of preparation work with her assistant and integration work. So like talk therapy is definitely incorporated. There's a lot of journaling, but also she uses like spirit kind of animal cards, and it's just a very hybrid mix. It's not super clinical. Like the space is really inviting, and it's just a very safe, inviting space. And I was just like, wow, this isn't, a pump and dump like what you hear about. And maybe there are clinics like that, or maybe that's what they were before now, and now
Right.
these clinics are realizing that they can offer people a more holistic experience, and that people are going to get better results. And so I that's really been my ethos, is like East and West. Like we have all of
Yep.
this thousands of years of Eastern medicinal information. It's like, no, we don't need to just discount Western medicine and science and all of the incredible discoveries and technologies we have. It's like, what if we just like work together? I mean, how profound would that be? And that's where I actually really hope we're going, is like,
Yep.
let's get doctors and scientists in the rooms with freaking healers who are doing like really spiritual work that you cannot
Right.
define on paper. Like, cause
Right.
that or maybe not yet. One day we will, but like, I think you said you had an ayahuasca journey. So like, there's magic in song and music. I mean, that was
Oh my
something
gosh.
that came through to me actually in my session, because I'm a musician, and
Mm.
so much of my downloads were like, oh my God, music is medicine. Like, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
so, and art is such a part of this. And it's really just our creation of it, that
Right.
there's healing in like connecting to the divine, or whatever we are channeling through us. And I really, like, a lesson for me was removing my ego. And it's like, just create for you. Like, it doesn't matter to
Right.
share it, don't, like, it's not, we're always scared what other people think. We don't want to like sing or dance or be weird. And it's like, I it's interesting, like my fear of what other people were thinking about me, like what is my ego, and it's kind of stopped me from creating authentically. And yeah, my most recent psychedelic experiences have really just kind of encouraged me to like just not give a shit about what other people think. And we don't know what we put out there. Like Wave Paths is who the clinic uses for music, and I need to hit them up and be like, wow, like that music really dictates some of the journey. It takes you up and down and in and out, and it's like
Oh, definitely.
connecting to nature. And it's so cool what the music how the music impacts the journey. It was something I wasn't expecting. And yeah, it's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. And I mean, I'm curious if you have any like from your employees or yourself, like have you found or seen like profound healing or transformation in your employees who have decided to like do the quarterly ketamine, sessions, or any
Oh yeah.
insights there?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Virtually everybody who has participated has had a pretty transformative experience. Um, I mean, I've had a couple employees who have just done it once, not first time ever having a psychedelic experience, not really cannabis users either. Um, so it's been, it can be a little intimidating and scary If you've
Yeah.
never used cannabis or psychedelics, and you jump right into a ketamine treatment, but still benefited greatly from it. Um, I've had employees who have had treatments, and then kind of like how you were saying earlier, you have these treatments, and then you realize, oh, my purpose is to do this other thing. One of those guys used to be our one of our tech guys, and he had an experience, and now he's traveling the world with his family.
Wow.
Sold his home, sold all of his possessions, and he's traveling the world. Um, and yeah, I mean, everybody has an incredible story, and it's been fun to watch. It's been fun to watch people step outside of their ego and themselves, and really get out of their own way and start other hobbies. Or a lot of people at the company will end up start getting involved in biohacking, cold plunges, sauna, meditation, yoga. So there's kind of this path that people tend to follow, which is just it's the wellness journey, it's the wellness path, and it's 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 been cool for me to just personally to be able to offer that, and then just see the transformation people have. I had one guy who um, stopped smoking, stopped drinking. His family life got better, and it's just off one treatment. Like
Wow.
the power of ketamine is it's. I think ketamine is the gap between kind of the our current culture of because we're all so Western medicine programmed. Doctors in our culture is like the highest authority. So whatever the doctor says is what you do, and um, so yeah, ketamine is definitely going to be the bridge, because it's like for our parents' generation, like, okay, mom, it's in a doctor's office, it's administered by a doctor, they come and they sit with you, instead of, hey, mom, let's go to Peru and sit in a maloca with this shaman who's going to sing to us. It's like they can't even that reality they can't even comprehend. So I mean,
Right.
I love ketamine. There's a place for it, and I think it's the bridge.
Yeah, I agree. And reminds me of what you said earlier about your experience with Iboga and like all the shit that's in our minds,
Hmm.
that it's like when you remove that, it's like, oh, right. I actually do have a purpose and it's not this. And that shift to living in alignment, the healing in that is the healing, right? It's like you
Right,
realize you're out of alignment.
right.
And that can happen, without psychedelics too. I mean, it happened for me actually through veganism, like clearing out my diet and quitting caffeine and really taking a deep look at my values and living in alignment with my values. But, we all have our own journeys, but it's interesting because I definitely felt that in my, in a ketamine journey of like when all the other shit is pushed aside, you can like truly really feel and see and identify who you are. And
Right.
that's really cool that, people in these one sessions, like it reminds me of like, I go to a lot of festivals and Burning Man, and you see what people dress like when they are just dressing like their truest authentic selves. And it's wild. Like people are fun and funny and crazy and so unique, right? Like so freaking unique. And you can just tell that they feel so confident and in
Right.
a safe space, like that. And it's almost like the same thing. Like I always wonder, I'm like, wow, imagine in like normal life, if people were just able to wear what they wanted, like this place would look like a circus or like it would look
Absolutely would.
amazing. It would be beautiful instead of everyone shopping at the Gap and wearing identical shirts. It's like
For sure.
it's really interesting. And when people have those experiences, like it's like, wow, I wonder how people would live when they didn't live the way they thought they had to live,
Right.
and I think that is what's so cool about psychedelics. It's like, and it happened in the 60s and 70s, like people not wanting to just what's the word? Conform. And yeah, it's beautiful to feel like there's like a little bit of a full circle happening. And to your point of like ketamine being the bridge, I agree. I really do. I think it's it's not going to be for everyone. It could turn people off. I don't love that it's the first like I hope that people do try cannabis as well. There's still such a stigma with cannabis, even in
Right.
the medical community. I mean, even within ketamine administrators, like sometimes they are like, don't use,
Yep.
cannabis. Like I've
Oh yeah.
heard that. So it's interesting. Like I think I want to bring cannabis into the conversation more. It's like, it's weird to me that it's so separate. So it's awesome that you're doing that. Like I just really align with that. I think it's really important. So yeah, I'm really excited, to be connected to you and learn more about your work. And at Psychedelics Today, we're happy to support you guys however we can, and just really excited to see what you do in the future.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, and thank you for what you guys are doing. It's been great to get to know your crew. Going out to LA for that event was awesome. I love what you guys have going on, the organization, what you guys stand for, um, and it's great. It's education. That's what we need.
Yeah.
It's all going to change with education and removing the stigma. So it's great to be aligned with you and your guys' company, and I look forward to working with you guys in the future.
Yeah, me too. And I'm really excited to check out the documentary, and I'll give you my feedback. I really can't wait. And we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.